Yes, I got the wide angle. I turned my camera sideways. All right, so I got a bit of 4064 here. Got some casings. I'm reloading 150 grain boat tail spiral point, or soft point, or field point, spiral point. They're all the same. Well, they're not all the same. But okay, so today I will be talking about the Ukraine. Yes, I know I shouldn't be multitasking while I'm doing this, but I'm at the final stages, so it's kind of, I'm okay with this. All right, so anyway, you've got people basically taking up arms and overrunning police stations and everything like that in Donetsk and other kind of border regions of the Ukraine. These people basically want to separate and become a part of Russia because they're seeing what's happening on the western side or on the eastern side, and they just don't want any part of it. Which, even in the eastern side, you're seeing people with the same signs as the people, and like on the other side saying, Obama stay out. Nobody wants them there. Nobody wants the IMF. Nobody wants the EU. Do they want to do trade with Europe? Sure, they want that, but they don't want these bankers. They don't want all that tyranny. They don't want all that austerity. But they're in a rock and a hard place. They don't really have. Well, they have choices, but none of them are easy. You know what I mean? So, with that said, what do we got? Well, you've got a whole bunch of people that are somehow getting firearms and stuff like that, and military equipment like AK-47s, tactical gear, and going and basically, hijacking the government buildings and putting up, Russian flags and stuff like that in one area. Meanwhile, in the other area, you have the Ukrainian government, installed government, disarming the people because they know that people are eventually going to turn on them as well, because people are starting to say, okay, you guys, you did a coup, we did the coup for you, you got into power, and things aren't changing. Again, people are reasonable, they know that things aren't going to change overnight, but all the changes that are happening are even worse than if they would have just waited for an actual election. And how is it worse? Well, it's simple, really. Obviously, Russia's not going to give favors to the Ukraine anymore, like they were doing, and they were kind of doing, overlooking the budget thing with the, not paying for the gas and stuff like that. Now what they've done is they not only doubled the price of the gas, but they've actually doubled it again. So, basically people just simply, the gas, it's kind of like what I said at the beginning, either if Russia just cuts off the gas, it's too obvious that they're doing it as punishment, and the international community can jump in and, it gives them an excuse to do stuff, NATO excuses to do stuff. But if they just keep hiking up the price past the point of affordability, it's basically cutting off the gas by price. So it's like, well, you can't pay, that's not my problem. You can buy it, you just need money. And so it's dirty politics, no matter how you look at it. Again, there's no good guys here. So you've got the people in Ukraine that are still protesting, okay? And that's the thing, like everybody that, thinks that, okay, well, now that the EU's there, the IMF is in there, everything's, peachy and rosy. Well, it's been nothing but hell for them. Basically, the retirements have been cut from 150 or 160 of their dollars per month down to like 80 to 50. I mean, basically, they're going to starve out grandma and grandpa is what they're doing, okay? And, people are they're not taking well to that. Next to that, there's Ukrainian people saying they want to disarm us now. Okay, we have a foreign, on one side of the country, on the western side, they're looking at it as, look, Russia's invaded us. On the other side of the country, they're looking at, we don't want to be a part of the EU, the IMF, and we don't want to be under the rule of the neo-Nazis that are there, and the fascism. So this is playing into Putin's hand, kind of how I said, is that, he's just going to let people come to him, so he doesn't really have to do much. All the money that he was going to use to bail out the Ukraine,
Russia was going to do this before the EU deal got kind of squashed, and it didn't even really get totally squashed. Yanukovych, okay, yeah, he's not a good guy. You could get him for a lot of corruption, you know. But the thing is that
they didn't have to, deal with, like no money whatsoever. They had the opportunity, okay, to renegotiate the deal, okay, and it wasn't a good deal for Yanukovych at the time, okay, So would he have ever signed it? Who knows? But one of the things that, like the free travel, like this is what people don't get. Like they want to, the part of Ukraine that started the protest, they wanted to become more integrated with Europe, which is pretty open. Everybody knows that. But European Union, okay, to join the European Union, you get the right, pretty much, to free travel throughout Europe, okay, the way I understand it, that for most countries. Now, they weren't going to get this, so meaning the people still weren't going to get anything. So that's why Yanukovych didn't sign it. So, the deal wasn't the best for Ukraine. It wouldn't have been, and that's why he didn't sign it. But people, they reacted very badly that he didn't sign it, they protested. And then, of course, protesters started getting paid on both sides. Again, there's no good guys here. Then all the legitimate protest is pretty much squashed by, special interest groups. Right? And so they hire these neo-Nazis. They go in and they do the dirty work, and they basically scare Yanukovych out of the country. Okay, so what have you got now? You've got basically a barren country. There's nobody. The boat's floating, but nobody knows who's in. There's no captain at the wheel, and which leaves the seats open. And of course, people start appointing themselves as you got Yanukovych or whatever. He's now in charge and the $5 billion of regime change from the United States over the couple of years, they decided that's the guy they were going to put in. He was very connected to all the players involved are all pretty much connected. So everybody knows that it was a coup. But now what has this guy done since he's been there? Well, all the things that he promised he was going to do, he's pretty much backed up on. And I mean, this guy has basically done the Obama mold or model in like 3 days. So everything he said he was going to do, he pretty much backed up on. So people are catching on to this, saying, hey, no, you promised us this, and we're not getting anything. So in turn, what are they going to get? Well, they're going to get $15 billion in bailouts. But the problem is that money's never, ever, ever, ever going to go to the people. It can't go to the people. Why? Because that's not what this game is about. Again, anybody that's still arguing from the point of the protesters and the legitimate protest is not understanding what's being done here. What you're looking at is what governments do. Power grabs, land grabs, and resource grabs. And that's all it is. And it's just one government on one side of the pond and one government on the other side of the pond fighting with each other. And everybody that gets caught in the crossfire of this, well, I mean, people have already died, right? And, more people are dying. Now, what's going on is that the EU, okay, is broke. They're broke. They're completely broke. And EU membership, like, who the hell would want to join the EU now? Like, I mean, just look Greece, Spain, Italy, Ireland, the UK. The list just goes on and on. Everybody, even Germany, is having problems. One side of the country is doing okay, the other side not so well. Okay, so almost everybody's questioning, is being in the EU a good idea? Is it not a good idea? And at the end of the day, it really comes out simple that no, it's not a good idea to be in the EU. So by joining up to the EU, well, it gives a place for a couple of things to happen. Number one, it's a place for debt to go. Now, a lot of people don't understand, too, that in 2008, that the reason why Europe was hit so hard is because the crash was diverted from the United States to Europe. And how was this done? Well, it was done by the European Union buying U.S. debt and then calling in the rest of the European Union to basically pay for this debt. So in other words, think about it this way. You have a credit card, okay, and you run the credit card up full, so they extend the limit for you. And you're okay, well, I can't quite make the payments, and I still need stuff. Can you put the credit card up again? So they do this again. And all of a sudden, somebody else over their defaults, and they come after you for the payment. Well, that's pretty much what they're doing.
But at this time, you're already so broke that it doesn't matter if they come after you with the payment, you can't get blood from the stone, everybody's broken, and of course, the disaster that we have now is what we have now. So, the U.S. debt is like, I mean, the game is still played the same it was. You know, the real estate's the same, all the scams are the same, but just bigger. And the thing is that this is all basically reoccurring again. So the United States needs a place to basically dump the dollar, and that's where the Ukraine comes in. And they use the UN, the EU, the IMF, and all that to get this show on the road. But they're also doing something else, is they also wanted NATO in there. Now, there's another thing that, because this is such a failure, and there's a few things that it didn't add up. For example, leaked phone calls of, you know, regime change and stuff like that. You're going, why are these phone calls out there? You know, who's leaking these out there? You know what I mean? And then it starts to dawn on me. Something they said way back in 2009 or 2010, I can't remember. There was an interview. Don't ask me who was in the interview. It's out there on YouTube. And they said, well, what is the Obama administration going to do? They said they're going to kill the dollar. Well, maybe the whole point of the Ukraine destabilization was never to help out Ukraine, but to give an excuse to crash the U.S. dollar and say, oh, all of these sanctions, mild sanctions we did on Russia, really didn't have any effect on Russia. But Russia went and, you know, they're now trading in the ruble. They're, you know, they helped crash the U.S. dollar. It's their fault. Let's go get them, and we get into World War III. You know, because these bankers don't want to take the blame for this, right? But I think people are too smart for that. The masses might not be, but if you have 1% to 3% of your population turn on its government, you get a new government. That's kind of the recipe. Okay, yeah. I don't know how I missed that. Attention to detail. Attention to detail. I know what some of you reloaders are saying. You should be paying attention and not doing videos while you're doing this. I know. But, so anyway, at the end of the day, what we're looking at is basically, you know, if they're using the Ukraine just to dump the dollar and not help the people, that means there's a huge crash coming for everybody. You know, like, and with all these dying bankers getting knocked off, we've recently had our finance minister, or ex-finance minister Jim Flaherty died. Now, he was a sick man for the past year or so, and that's pretty much open record. But he died, I guess, 3 days ago from this making of this video. Now, I'm not saying conspiracy there, but it is kind of convenient that that man would pass away at this time, considering all the other 26 bankers that, and you know, that have been pretty much knocked off. You might as well say they're hits, because you know, nobody commits suicide with a nail gun. You know what I mean? And there's people that, you know, hit and runs, a ton of hit and runs. I think there's 2 or 3 of them were hit and runs. You know, so it's very clear that something's going on. You know, and you've got people saying, okay, yes, the gold is manipulated. All, you know, like everybody's saying, oh, there might be. You're starting to hear rumors of the housing bubble, which everybody that's in the know knows it's yes. You know, if they're playing the same game that they were playing in 2008 that led up to the housing bubble, well, they're going to get another housing bubble, and that's usually where it all starts, right? So, right now in the States, I mean, businesses are closing like, you know, in the hundreds. You know, like you know, dollar stores. I mean, when dollar stores start closing, you know people are really broke. And all, like, basically it comes down to is the bankers don't want to be blamed for this crash. And they want to use Russia as the excuse and China as the excuse to go to war. Saying, look, they've attacked us this way, they've attacked us that way. And then you've got guys like Jamie Dimon saying, oh, in about 6 to 8 months, there's probably going to be a lot of cyber attacks on the banks. You know, okay, so why would he be saying stuff like that unless he knew, right? That's the thing about these psychopaths. They always kind of tilt their hands somewhere, you know, to kind of let you know what's coming, because they can't keep it in, right? They have to kind of let you know that they're going to do something, you know. It's subliminal in a sense, you know. Now, with that said, getting back to the Ukraine, okay, so you've got these guys that are on the western side of Ukraine that are joining the militia forces, but not necessarily joining the military, because they don't want to be under command of the military, because they don't trust them. And stuff like that. But they want to have the training, they want the weapons, they want this. So what they've been doing is taking people, to kind of defuse them, is they're trying to get the right sector guys disarmed. And they're disarming them first. They're going to disarm everybody, because the revolt that's coming there is basically, you know, on the western side of Ukraine. You know,
it's going to be a major revolt. Now, what I'm thinking is what they're trying to do is get the East and the West to fight each other. But it's not really happening because, people don't want to be killing their own, right? Even if, there might be Ukrainians that completely hate Russia, but they don't hate, their cousin Ivan who lives in Crimea. You know what I mean? They don't hate, Yvonne doesn't hate Boris over in, on the western side. You know what I mean, or the eastern side. They don't hate each other there, and that's the thing. Yeah, there's going to be scuffles, and there's always going to be the minority groups that that are willing to kill each other. But for the most part, they don't want a civil war there. But on the other part, people want to feel safe. So obviously, the people that are closest to Russia see, they see that they have two options right now. I mean, the power's cut off in Donetsk and stuff like that from Ukraine. So basically, you have the strong arm tactics that Russia's doing against the Ukraine. You have Ukraine doing against small communities within, within Ukraine. Basically cutting off power and stuff like that. So Russia's trying to resupply power and stuff like that from their side. So basically, where are people going to go? To the person that's slapping their hand or the person that's handing stuff out, right? So it's pretty simple and straightforward on that. So what you're going to see is all these secession movements all over the place. Now, the Tartars, they've been remaining pretty silent in this and very nervous because my hunch is what they're going to do is try to unite the Ukraine, is probably do a false flag of some sort to get make it look like the Tartars have attacked both sides, and then from there, everybody unites and they're all going to jump onto the Russia side for sure, because it'll be manipulated that way. Now these guys going around overtaking police stations and stuff like that on the Donetsk and stuff like that, and there's protests and riots there. Who are these guys? They're probably the same actors. Russian forces just with not advertising. Who they are with badges and stuff like that. But they're basically those guys. And there might be one or two of them as provocateurs, and then the rest are just the citizens that are around there that are supporters. It's the same play over and over. You have your provocateur and your useful idiots, and then they go and they do whatever they want them to do. Now, as far as the Ukrainian military, well, 60% of them in the Crimea region flipped over because their houses, their families are there, and some of them are very pro-Russia. The other ones, well, were outnumbered anyway. And more importantly, you're hearing from Ukrainian military commanders saying, where's our orders? We're staying in these bases, and no one's given us any orders. Nobody's, we were here, and basically you left us there to hang high and dry. We're going with Russia now. So Russia basically reclaimed a lot of equipment that it sold to Ukraine over the years, like Su-27s and stuff like that, ships and all that stuff. And on top of that, you have people again. They don't want to be a part of the European Union. They don't trust the Americans. They don't trust the Obama administration. Good for good reason too. So because they're catching on that none of this is about helping the people. It's about stealing resources, about Monsanto controlling the wheat fields. It's about Chevron fracking. I don't know what Canada's role is going to be in this. It's probably going to have something to do with mining the resources. But that was the point. But Russia is Putin already kind of said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get them to come to us. So right now he's getting all the good parts of the Ukraine. So what's going to be left at the end of the day? Again, pretty much like I said, a month or so ago when I first started covering it, he's basically just going to get everybody to come to him, and because you get more bees with honey, than with crap, right? So, so you start offering better deals, better price deals on the fuel. Well, they're going to go with Russia. You offer power, you offer this, you offer that. They're going to buy them off, and they're going to get it. So that's why you have all these other people. They see the Crimea, basically, they've started a chain reaction, basically. They've pretty much, in a nutshell, got everybody now demanding, to separate and stuff like that. So Putin's gotten what he wanted. And I said before, most likely, he's going to take just the good parts of the Ukraine, but
if he could take the whole thing, he will. You know, that's clear. Now, from the American side, you got Kerry out there threatening to punch Putin in the face pretty much every other day, threatening war, threatening sanctions. But what do you got for sanctions? You got nothing. You know, you got, okay, travel bans on a few people that wouldn't travel to the States anyway. So, you know, a few oligarchs or whatever, okay, no big deal. And then you've got this EU money that's coming in, the $15 billion, going to the banks and going to, none of it's going to help the people, and none of it will. It was there, you know, it's the same in Greece, the same in Spain, the same in Italy. Meanwhile, in Europe, people are saying, why the hell are we sending money over there? We're broke. We don't have any money to send over there. You know, like the insanity of it, right? American taxpayers are saying the same thing here. You know, like, okay, while Obama's so worried about what's going on in the Ukraine and around, you know, the Senkaku Diaoyu Islands and, you know, Japan and China conflict, and worrying about, you know, Syria and all that, how about you worry about the problems at home? But you see, that's the point. They don't want to deal with what's the problems at home because it's unfixable. You know, a $17 trillion deficit that's growing. You know, it's just, you know, like, it's a disaster. It's going to collapse. So what they're doing is they're looking for somebody to blame it on. You know, like, this collapse happened because of these people. We've got to go get it too. Same thing that happened in World War I. And, you know, same in World War II. It was, because we have trouble because of those people. We have to go get them. We've got to protect the world. And people they're not buying it. The American taxpayers tapped out. They're like, we're sending money over there. I mean, even here in Canada, like, I mean, we're sending money over there, you know, when we need doctors, you know, like, I mean, Canada is way better off than just about any other country out there. You know, there is a lot, you know, there's little to complain about living here in Canada. There really is. But there are things, because it's like, okay, what my complaint is that if we keep doing what everybody else over there is doing, we're going to end up like everybody else over there. So rather than send out all this foreign aid and getting into, you know, especially Canada, we're not equipped to deal with the Russians. We're going to be fighting the Russians in the next decade anyway, because over the Arctic. So do we really want to be sending money all over these places? You know, you got to kind of think of the priorities. Get the ships built here so we can protect we don't even have an icebreaker. I mean, we have the largest coastline of any country in the world, with the exception of possibly Russia, and we only have a handful of ships, you know, and they're outdated. Now, our new ships are coming along, but, you know, again, do we really want to be, you know, razzing the bear? I mean, okay, fair enough. Polar bears are bigger than grizzly bears, but still, you know, numbers-wise, we don't have the numbers. We don't even have the military the same size as the Ukrainian military. Think about that. So, and think of the size of our country. So here we are, kind of, you know, ticking off the Russians just to, you know, kind of. It's kind of like, okay, well, the Americans are going up being the big bully, and we're just kind of behind them, kind of backing the bully. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking to the American people, because the American people don't want this. Canadian people don't want this. Now, yes, outside of Ukraine, we have the largest Ukrainian population of about 1.2 million people, and yes, I can get the you know, the picking up votes and stuff like that. But once you start putting in money and stuff like that, okay, yes, we say yes, we support the Ukrainian people, which I do. Like, I mean, you know, I don't envy them. I definitely wouldn't want to be in their situation at all, you know. And I get that. So yeah, you can put out the moral support, and yes, the like sanctions. That if you want to do that, that's fine. But leave it at that. You know, it's like, hey, move on. You know, don't beat the war drum too much, because if you know, careful what you wish for, right? Now, I guess I'll finish up on one last thing. Is that the I Am Ukrainian girl, a real pretty girl. She's on Sun News, and they're interviewing her, and she says a couple of things that, you know, kind of, they're asking, you know, how, you know, she's so happy that, you know, people in Canada support the Ukrainian people and stuff like that, in the States and stuff like that. But then she brings up a really, really, really good point. Now, I believe this girl to be a legitimate protester. I mean, you're walking along and say, okay, well, we need to get sympathy for the Ukrainian people, so there, she's a knockout. Get her in front of the camera. People are going to watch that, right? And so anyway, they get this pretty girl, and she does a video, and then of course you see videos coming in from Poland. You see all over the place that we support the Ukrainian people and stuff like that, and that's great. But that is propaganda. You know, it is propaganda. It was propaganda done to get that regime change. It wasn't done to get help for the Ukrainian people. Now, that said, she brings up the best point of it all is that she goes right now, she says the Russian ambassador and John Kerry, I can't remember the name of the Russian ambassador, you know, are sitting there, you know, making basically, you know, bartering over the Ukraine, so to speak. She goes, but there's nobody on our behalf there. I mean, it's our country. You know, shouldn't we have a say? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's nice that they're doing that for us, but shouldn't they have asked the Ukrainian, politicians there? I mean, but again, right now, I think in the last past like 2 days there was like 8 or 10 fistfights in the Ukrainian parliament. It's like WWF in there. It's pretty, or WWE in there. It's like it's just completely dysfunctional, right? But she makes the point. You've got people that are advocating for the EU. You have people that are advocating for NATO. You have people who are advocating for the United States. You have people who are advocating for Russia. You have people who are advocating for the IMF. But nobody's advocating for the Ukrainian people. I thought this was about the Ukrainian people. Oh, that's right. It's not. It's about who can we blame for collapsing our dollar. The United States is going to blame Russia for collapsing the dollar. Because Putin, okay, I'll leave it with this, is that for the kind of, like none of Europe, the rest of Europe wants to do sanctions against Russia because it's boomerang sanctions. It will hurt, and it's already throughout Europe. They're already starting to get the so-called payback from Russia. Gas prices are going up because the 25% of the gas goes through the Ukraine. It's being slowed down, stuff like that. So the problems that are happening in Ukraine are also affecting Europe. And of course, the Europeans are like, well, we do so much trade with Russia, such as Germany, that we really don't want to be taking them off, So, the U.S. can put any sanctions it wants on there, but if it affects Europeans, so it's a lose-lose situation. So the only thing that makes sense is that everything that they're doing on the Obama administration is really to collapse the, and you got to understand, well, what's the EU and the IMF's, how do they benefit? Well, they benefit because they could say, well, when we have a global economic collapse, it wasn't us, it was the Russians. And trust me, the IMF, they're part of the problem. And I've done enough economic updates to, people know who's doing wrong. And again, this is kind of the like the musical chairs. Nobody wants to be left, without a chair, right? So, with that said, you've got, Russia basically now. Okay, Visa, you don't want to do business in our country anymore? That's fine. We'll roll out our own credit card. We're already set up for it. The Russians have been, for years, with the Chinese, looking for ways and planning ways and setting up themselves to basically be independent of the U.S. dollar. And they've pretty much done that. So now it's people like, well, if you want to buy stuff from us, you can buy it in the rubles. You don't need U.S. dollars. And our dollar's backed by gold. The Chinese are saying the same thing. So, again, I know I'm repeating a lot of stuff here, but I can't drive those points home hard enough that that's what it really comes down to is the Americans have lost world reserve status, currency status. The petrodollar is no longer because people can go around the dollar now. It's, it might not be official on the books, but if people can do trade, for example, Iran, they sell oil to Russia. Now, Russia doesn't need to buy oil. It's an oil tycoon country. But what they do need, okay, or what they do for Iran is they take the oil, they sell it for Iran, and then whatever trade outs that they work out, they'll do. But in a way, Iran still gets paid, and they can still do their things and all that. And so, I mean, people can get around the U.S. dollar. And that's going to hurt because that means all the people that are holding U.S. treasuries, they're going to be sending them back home. Why? Because it's no longer, you don't need them anymore. And it's going to hurt us big time. Here in Canada, our dollars, you have to understand, the Canadian dollar is way more powerful than the U.S. dollar. We actually do what we can to hold back our dollar. Now, there's things that we've been doing here in Canada. Now, Harper's kind of he's kind of hard to pick out. A lot of people think he's a U.S. puppet, but he's not. Because being an economist, you can tell the guy knows that 2 + 2 doesn't make 5. He knows that when the States goes down, we go down. He will not talk about Obama's policies. I mean, the man barely gets in front of the camera to begin with. I mean, he's the most camera-shy prime minister in history. Other than the ones that predate cameras, right? But at the end of the day, what do you got? Well, you've got a guy that's saying, okay, well, let's do trade with these people, let's do trade with those people, let's do trade with those people. Now, as a globalist, I don't agree with Harper at all. But for example, we have a clearinghouse here for China, meaning we can buy Chinese dollars, and which scares me because that means policies will start to favor China in the near future. And I don't want to be under communist rule, period. Personally, nobody should be doing trade with China until they up their human rights. But the people in the country are going to have to make that change for themselves. It's the same with Ukraine. The Chinese are in the same kind of predicament, right? the people. I mean, so with that said, just to finish up with what we're doing, well, it's like, okay, well, we're basically doing trade deals with Brazil. We're doing trade deals with other European countries. We have parts of the Netherlands, such as Iceland and Denmark, I think, wants to take I don't know about Denmark, but I think Denmark, and I know Iceland for sure, wants to take the Canadian dollar. Now, this is a good thing and a bad thing. It's bad for Iceland because then they're going to be stuck in the Greece, Spain, Italy kind of thing, where if they get into trouble, they can't devalue their dollar. But on the other hand, it's sound money, to a point, but like the United States, we don't back our dollar with gold. Not that we can't, we don't. So that's where our problem is. But our dollar, it's been basically at par with the U.S. dollar for the longest time, and slightly better than par for the longest time. Now it's, in the past couple of months, it's been just kind of like miraculously been dropping. Not like a rocket, but kind of like you could tell it's being forced down. And, there's a couple of ways that can happen. Number one, our trades slow down, well, then our dollar will drop, and then the trades will pick up. It'll bounce where it's going to bounce. But for the most part, we keep our dollar low because of that. So that we do more trade with the States, which does make kind of sense in a way. But, again, we don't want to be a slave to the U.S. dollar, although in a lot of ways we are. But we are set up in the sense that we can go independent, from the U.S. dollar if we have to. Not easily, and yes, people will suffer very, very badly, but we're better off than the States. I mean, for example, our employment rate's lower. It's not the devastation in the States. We don't have as many people on government assistance. We don't have as many people. We're about 1/10 the population, so that's where it kind of plays out. But anyway, leaving it at that, I guess I'm babbling now. We'll have to wait and see what happens in Ukraine, but you can see how it's all kind of working together. And at the end of the day, it really does come about. It's about blaming Russia. Russia's actually, if you're looking at it from that point of view, Russia's playing right into the hand where they're doing everything to destabilize the American dollar as much as possible. And they're doing it out of self-defense, in a sense. So at the end of the day, people, they'll rally the Americans saying, "Oh, look, it was the Russians that crashed our economy with the Chinese. Let's go get them." And that's what it comes down to. That's how crazy this game is. So I'm going to leave it at that. So rate, subscribe, share, comment, and like.
Okay, hi and welcome. Yes, I got the wide angle. I turned my camera sideways. Alright, so I got a bit of 4064 here. Got some casings. I'm reloading 150 grain boat tail spiral point, or soft point, or field point, spiral point, they're all the same. Well, they're not all the same. Okay, so today we'll be talking about the Ukraine. Yes, I know I shouldn't be multitasking while I'm doing this, but I'm at the final stages, so it's kind of, I'm okay with this. All right, so anyway,
You've got people basically taking up arms and overrunning police stations and everything like that in Donetsk and other kind of border regions of the Ukraine. These people basically want to separate and become a part of Russia because they're seeing what's happening on the western side or on the eastern side, and they just don't want any part of them. Which, even in the eastern side, you're seeing people with the same signs as the people, and like the other side saying, Obama, stay out. Nobody wants them there. Nobody wants the IMF. Nobody wants the EU. Do they want to do trade with Europe? Sure, they want that, but they don't want these bankers. They don't want all that tyranny. They don't want all that austerity. But they're in a rock and a hard place. They don't really have. Well, they have choices, but none of them are easy. You know what I mean? So, with that said, what do we got? Well, you've got a whole bunch of people that are somehow getting firearms and stuff like that, and military equipment like AK-47s, tactical gear, and going and basically, hijacking the government buildings and putting up, Russian flags and stuff like that in one area. Meanwhile, in the other area, you have the Ukrainian government, installed government, disarming the people because they know the people are eventually going to turn on them as well, because people are starting to say, okay, you guys, you did a coup, we did the coup for you, you got into power, and things aren't changing. Again, people are reasonable, they know that things aren't going to change overnight,
but all the changes that are happening are even worse than if they would have just waited for an actual election. And how is it worse? Well,
it's simple, really. Obviously, Russia's not going to give favors to the Ukraine anymore, like they were doing. And they were kind of doing, okay, overlooking the budget thing with the, not paying for the gas and stuff like that. Now what they've done is they not only doubled the price of the gas, but they've actually doubled it again. So, basically people just simply, the gas, it's kind of like what I said in the beginning. Either if Russia just cuts off the gas, it's too obvious that they're doing it as punishment, and the international community can jump in and, it gives them an excuse to do stuff, NATO excuses to do stuff. But if they just keep hiking up the price past the point of affordability, it's basically cutting off the gas, but cutting off the gas by price. So it's like, well, you can't pay, that's not my relevance. You can buy it, you just need money. And so it's dirty politics, no matter how you look at it. Again, there's no good guys here. So you've got the people in Ukraine that are still protesting, okay? And that's the thing, like everybody that, thinks that, okay, well, now that the EU's there, the IMF is in there, oh, everything's, peachy and rosy. Well, it's been nothing but hell for them. Basically, the retirements have been cut from 150 or 160 of their dollars per month down to like 80 to 50. I mean, basically, they're going to starve out grandma and grandpa is what they're doing, okay? And, people are they're not taking well to that. Next to that, there's Ukrainian people saying they want to disarm us now. Okay, we have a foreign, on one side of the country, on the western side, they're looking at it as, look, Russia's invaded us. On the other side of the country, they're looking at, we don't want to be a part of the EU, the IMF, and we don't want to be under the rule of the neo-Nazis that are there, and the fascism. So this is playing into Putin's hand, kind of how I said, is that,